Hi, welcome back to AutoNerd, your podcast where we talk about how sales consultants and managers and owners can help boost satisfaction or CX, the customer experience on the sales floor, and increase things like closing rates and also profitability. We're going to explore in this podcast how taking general kindness and applying it to all sorts of areas to the needs assessment, and also how to integrate automotive technologies into this process and integrate them in with kindness to get customers to latch onto us, latch onto the vehicle a little bit easier, and also give you that killer survey that you've been wanting so bad because the last dude you moved to Earth for, and he may have tanked you. Either way, that is what we're going to cover today. Genuine kindness in the automotive industry and why exactly we do what we do and how we can change for the better. So sit tight. Here we go. So it's a crazy thing about human beings in general. They all seem to respond to one thing in the same way, and that's kindness. You see, authentic kindness will allow you to break down any barrier there. You see, when people come into the dealership, they are of two mindsets at this point. One of those is excitement, right? They've been dreaming about this car. They're ready to take the next step. They want to take it home, and they're shopping for a consultant, right? They already kind of have their car picked out, and our job is to make sure it's the right one for them and mold them to another vehicle, right? Or that vehicle, depending upon which one is going to help them out the most and also pay us, right? Because, I mean, we're kind of in this for the money. But in addition to that, the other mindset the customer might be in is the one that's actually far more worrisome, and that's the mindset of anxiety. You know, the excitement person that we just spoke about briefly is an individual that you really don't need to do much with. They come in, hey, I want to see that. Okay, cool. That car right there? Yeah, that one. And the next thing you know, they take it for a drive and they buy the car. But when we look at anxiety, this individual is coming to the door, they've done their research online, and they're worried about everything, right? You know, their enthusiasm for being there has not been drummed up yet. They left it in the car. They do not want to come on in, and they feel like speaking with a car sales consultant is going to be the worst thing on the planet, right? Because they're worried about pricing, they're worried about the process. They don't want to be pressured into buying something that they simply just don't want. So the thing is that when it comes down to kindness is the great equalizer that just decimates things like anxiety. And studies have shown over and over and over again that people are far more likely to buy at a higher dollar value when they're comfortable and they're also understood, right? Now, this does take a little bit of talent, and it does take us acknowledging that our process that we have has been passed down from many, many, many generations. And it was very different back in the day. You know, I mean, we could say to a customer that, hey, if you're calling in for a price, you should probably just come on in, because they had no option at that point in time, right? But studies have shown that they will go ahead, come in, and spend way more money when they find somebody that they can click with, right? So this comes down to, like I said, us acknowledging there are some places that we can improve, right? Because we got to be a great listener. We have to respect the customer's concerns. And when it comes to treating the customer like a person, or we really need to take this idea that their customer is not just a simple commission. They are a human being that's sitting there, and the more they're respected, the higher the likeliness is that they will give themselves the permission to say yes, right? And also, taking advantage of the customer, not really a cool thing. So get that one right out of your head, simply because this is something that the anxious individual is worried about when they come on in through your door. And it's something that we just need to acknowledge, right? Because kindness isn't just about being polite. It's about going that extra mile to allow that individual that's coming in to know that, hey, I got your back, right? I'm here to help you. Because if you don't buy, you know, today or in the future, I don't eat. It's a pretty simple philosophy, and you know, I kind of, I guess we all kind of live and die by that now, don't we? So with this, kindness is going to be on the register. So we're going to explore the acts of kindness that leave a lasting impression. Now, with this, here are a few ways that you can actively demonstrate kindness in the sales process, right? Greet them like a friend, not a transaction. Now, you'll hear me say every so often that that's familiar walk in the door. Right, that's your family, right there walking through the front door. You don't even know their name yet. But the reason that I say that is that without that individual, you're not paying your mortgage. You're not paying your cell phone bill. You're not, I guess, existing in life. When people say that, money doesn't buy happiness, you know what? I like the coin of phrase on that is that it sure makes life easier. So with this, treat them as though they are a friend coming in through the front door, right? Instead of the whole like, hey, how can I help you today kind of thing. Maybe like, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Customer, welcome in. What's bringing you in here? Just try to be a little bit warmer, a little bit happier. And again, this is just a tiny little thing that shows the customer that you're just a different person. And I've heard them all, welcome to so-and-so Motors. How can I help you? What are you here for the big sale? I love that one. It's just like, how impersonal can we possibly be? Are you here for the big sale? Well, if that's today, well, I really hope I'm going to get a good deal. Well, it's every day. No, it's not. No, it's not. Just not, stop with it. It's not helping. Or try something along these lines. If they've been there before, right? Acknowledge it instead of just hi. What brings you in? If you've noticed them there, hey, good to see you again. Last time you were here, you were looking at SUVs. Saw you walking around out there in the lot, right? Are you still thinking kind of in that direction? Get the customer in a position where I'm just looking is not an option for them because they understand that, hey, I'm talking to somebody that is a little bit different. But don't forget, we do have tools to help us out. Now, I'm not saying look out on the lot and if you see that person out there, start taking notes rampantly about gentleman, red jacket, blue hat, he was here looking at SUVs. I'm not saying get creepy like that. What I am saying is that use your CRMs as a power tool. A lot of us use our CRMs simply as, well, a customer came in, manager wants to see some information, we hammer the information on in, and we call it a day. Leverage the thing, right? It's the CRM. Once you start to learn things like customer relationship or customer resource management systems. By the way, it used to be called relationship management, but we use it as a big old digital Rolodex half the time, and it spits out when to call our customers and in personal times that really never actually seem to work. And now some of them are very good, and don't get me wrong. So if you work for a CRM out there, I'm not bashing your CRM. I'm just saying that when it comes down to the personal touch, it really does go a long way. So with that CRM, the customers visited there before, check your notes, see if things are relevant. If they sat down in front of you before and you had a conversation with them, open up that CRM. What did I do last time with this individual? Now, when I was selling, these were like paper, big paper manila envelopes, and you go ahead, you open it up, and you find where it is, and you continue to take notes. But on your computer, you have the ability to take your CRM, especially a personal CRM, which I always do recommend, and make sure that it's going to be okay with your dealership. Nobody get in trouble here. But I am a big CYA person, cover your ass kind of individual, is that when it comes to my deals, try to make darn sure I have my customers with me, right? Last thing I want to do is have my CRM fail, and then all of a sudden I don't have any work to do that day. Who am I going to call? What am I going to do? So as far as this goes, I digress. Make sure that you are going ahead and taking great notes on the people that you work with, which is why, when it comes to working the customer, sit down, grab pen, grab paper. The physical stuff is pretty darn good still. But if you do have something where you take notes digitally, do it. Just keep your phone and your watch and all that stuff kind of off to the side, right? So, and with those past conversations, if you notice that the customer's coming on in here to look at, let's say, that truck, that car, that exotic, whatever it might be, hey, I saw you were in here looking at that vehicle. Has anything changed, right? Are you looking for something a little bit different? Are you looking for the same exact thing? Maybe you had a change of heart. Maybe you actually really did need to sleep on it, and now you're back. So what's new? But a little effort here makes them feel valued, right? Not just another lead in your system. You see, just by going ahead and displaying what we currently do a little bit differently gives the customer the ability to back up a little bit and go, hey, whoa. This is a different experience. This is somebody that I haven't talked to yet, right? Why am I going to treat them like every other consultant that's out there? And with this, whenever you see customers come in and they're upset with us, it usually goes back to that whole anxiety thing. Now, you'll notice that the customers that have high anxiety are usually the individuals that'll be pretty twitchy, meaning that they're very easy to trigger, not like they're twitchy because of some drug or something like that. But with this individual, you gotta foster that relationship, right? The people that are excited when they come in to buy, they're going to buy whatever the number is in the window, right? And just, just look at them and maybe say no, and next thing you know, they buy. But when it comes to the anxiety individual, this person's done a lot of research. They're sitting down in front of you, and their brain is full of all of that stuff. It's our job to look at them and go, hey, again, I'm here to help. I understand why you're anxious, right? But, again, so looking at that thing, does anything change in your life that would prevent you from going ahead and buying that, or maybe, upgrading from that, right? Because our job in the end is to educate these customers, not just to sell them, right? Customers appreciate this. So we understand we're setting the stage for a completely different experience that the customer may not even know that they're about to get hit with. And it's a very simple thing. Humans like to deal with humans. They don't want to deal with robots. So our job is to open that door and go, hey, listen, I got your back. I'm here to help you. At the same time, we need to take on a different perspective when it comes to selling, because one of the things that we all hate the most, collectively hate the most, is talking to a salesperson. Now, I make a very clear difference between a salesperson and a consultant. And that difference is the fact that one listens and one is hunting for the deal. One goes ahead, for example, the salesperson will simply go ahead, hunt for that deal and hope that, they get a good commission out of it. Well, hope isn't something that I am willing to ride my financial future on. It just isn't, right? You got to invest in those talents. You got to invest in changing. And sometimes it may just be that, society's moved on forward a little bit. So educate that customer when they come on in and make that your topic that you drive towards is, hey, my job is to make sure that you're going to be comfortable in what you drive away in today, right? Now, whether you're looking at buying today or not, you got to understand some of the stuff. So with these vehicles that are coming to us, modern day vehicles coming to us, you have all these new driver assist features, right? Things like adaptive cruise systems, things like lane centering systems, lane following systems. And these are there to make commutes safer. But a lot of the times we will have customers that will hop behind the driver's seat and go, oh my gosh, it's steering itself, it's speeding itself up, it's slowing itself down. What the heck's going on here? And in their brain, they're thinking the worst, like, oh my gosh, the vehicle's going to drive me to jail, and this manufacturer has some intern over in California or Detroit with an Atari controller driving my vehicle. No, it's nothing like that. Being able to educate people with high anxiety, or at least high anxiety in this particular situation, gives you the ability to build trust with them rapidly because you care. And by showing that you care, now that person starts to open up that door of acceptance and go, hey, listen, maybe this person isn't half bad to begin with. So the other thing with this is that as new technology starts to come on, example, I talk about EVs a lot, support the customer, break down things like home charging to them, hold their hand through this, know your on and off peak hours and the size of the battery and how to put those things together to come out with your total fill up price. As you use your information that you've dug up out of your own research, and feel free, you can go ahead and email me. It's Andrew@AutoKnerd.com and ask questions. If you have questions about, hey, how do I calculate the cost of the battery? I have no problem going ahead and help you out with that, right? So break down things like, hey, here's how home charging works. Here's the networks. We got your back. The manufacturer might have an app to help you out. There's tons of apps out there to go ahead and find those charging stations. And so by educating these individuals on the new stuff, you make the new stuff not so scary. And when new stuff isn't scary, all of a sudden it's no longer magic. And magic is scary. Magic is entertaining. And this is why when you take a look at like magicians, people either avoid them or they're like sucked in. Because with these items, when they mystify people, it rides the line between curiosity and fear. Well, as soon as you're put in, for example, a vehicle that you fear, you want to get the heck out of there, which again leads me to all of you should be doing your test drives first, right? Show the customer how the vehicle actually drives and get that fear scenario completely out of the way. But don't forget about the small gestures. They came in, and if it's a hot day, maybe something like hot beverage, or a cold beverage or a hot beverage, depending on what their preference is. My dealership, we had I missed that machine. We had a coffee, we had a soda machine, snack machine, and then we had a milk machine. Why we had the milk machine, I don't know, but it was always interesting how many customers actually were like, oh yeah, I'll take that. So you offer the customer up something simple, something small. It doesn't need to be expensive. The tiny little gestures can completely change the customer's outlook on what exactly you're attempting to do, right? And in this particular scenario, we're not trying to do anything to harm the customer. We're actually trying to get the customer just to chill a second, so we can allow them to speak, right? Also, if they do leave, be a step up from your average consultant, right? Your average consultant, when it does come to showing the vehicle, we all do a great job of needs assessment. We show the vehicle built around the customer's life, but the customer leaves a lot of the time due to the fact that we've had many customers leave over the years and never return. We stop putting effort into that individual. Well, now we have a ton of resources to help out with this. So if the customer comes in and then they leave for, let's say they had to sleep on it, or they left peacefully, you're friends at that point in time. Think back on what you covered with that individual. If you found that that individual had a lot of questions about tech, start supporting them. Start supporting those questions. Find those videos from your manufacturer and start sending them on over to those customers so the customer can go, oh, wait, hey, that's how it works. No. Okay, so there's not a kid over in Detroit or California or New York or Atlanta going ahead and using, that old Joy-Con from the Atari to go ahead and drive my car. Because that is actually what people think. And the most common things that I hear is, somebody else is driving my car. No, you're doing it by satellite. I have no idea what that even means. Or the next one that I love, it's AI. No, AI is not driving the cars. Maybe in the future, but right now, not so much. So as far as that, those small gestures do help in a big way. But the other area that just falls short consistently every single time on the kindness scale is finance. Now, taking that customer and putting them in a position where their brain now goes idle allows for the customer to go down a different path. And you all can see this. Imagine you're sitting around, you're bored. You're sitting in front of some soap opera that you have no idea what is going on here, right? You don't know the theme of it, and you're told, hey, sit here and wait for finance. And who knows how long it's going to be? Hour and a half, 2 hours, depends on how backed up you are and what the customer's credit looks like and how many banks will actually accept it. But while the finance manager is working on all of these items, it buys us an awful lot of time. Now, that time will allow us the ability to start walking the customer through the vehicle, right? So if the customer is here and they bought the red car and it's in back getting washed, grab the same vehicle of equal or lesser trim. Or if you're at a brand, and I'm serious, just grab the blue one. Now, I know some of you out there are like, well, I would never do a demonstration on a different vehicle that they didn't buy. Why not? What's your excuse? Right? Go on over, grab the vehicle, and just start clicking things off. Because the door handles work the same, the seats work the same, the Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, that all works the same. The trunk still pops the same. Start going through the car. If you start going through the car pre-F&I, it's less stuff that you have to do after F&I. Now, me being a gigantic big child in many ways, when it comes to the vehicle, when I come out of F&I, I don't want to talk about paperwork. Do not go ahead and tell me, all right, now come on over, take a seat, and we're going to cover some books. After I just went ahead and talked to this person about my finances and additional items to buy in the vehicle, you're going to talk to me about the most boring stuff that we can possibly do. Don't do that. It's not fun. It's tanking your SSI scores. It's tanking your CSI scores, whatever you call it at your manufacturer. The deal is that when people get bored sitting in front of something like a soap opera or something they don't understand or something that they're not interested in, it leads to frustration. After frustration is anger because you're unattended to. So as their customer goes on this path, they start to dig themselves a hole where when it comes to you, you're not going to be able to dig them out of it. If they're angry going into F&I because you just let them sit around and do nothing while you're, washing the car? You're not washing the car. You're standing there maybe out front. Or, if you are doing paperwork, it's not about that customer sometimes. Now, I understand you got to run around, you got to get things done. Customer understands that too. So run around, get that stuff done, but then pull around that other vehicle. If their vehicle is kind of in line to get washed and you got a little bit of time, maybe pull around their car, right? Just start going through the stuff. Now, with all of these items, again, kindness is in the background. You can let the customer know, hey, we're going to do this right now. So when you come out of F&I, you can just leave with your brand new toy. How's that sound? Leverage the fact that you are doing something unique and different that other consultants aren't doing. Because when you look at your surveys, there's an area in there where you are getting either hammered on features and functions, or you're getting hammered on time. More than likely, you're getting hammered on both. Now, if your manufacturer doesn't track that, they don't track it. But when it comes down to time and features and functions, they are directly connected to one another. If the customer goes idle, well, they get bored, they kill you on the survey for wasting their time. If they leave and they haven't been taught enough Well, they kill you on the survey because they don't know enough about the car. But if we utilize every minute that we have with the customer effectively, now the customer's not going to kill us on time. They're also not going to go ahead and kill us on features and functions because we taught them the features and functions that actually matter to them. See how this works? Using the time wisely will get that customer to go, hey, listen, you actually do care, right? Because the last person I talked to, the last 3 cars that I bought, whatever it might be, took forever. That process was terrible. Right. So these little acts of kindness along the way offer these huge impacts in the end when the customer receives that survey or you get to negotiation and they're filling things out. So these little acts of kindness, they build up. And not for nothing, I call it buying good karma. And as you buy up all of this good karma as you're working with the customer, all of a sudden the customer looks at you and goes, this is awesome. Thank you. Thank you for your help. Right. And when you hear that, thank you for your help from the customer, and they're smiling and they're ready to give you a hug, you know darn well you did a good job. And you know as well you don't need a manager Tito to tell you that you're getting 1,000 points or 100 points or 1,000,000 points or whatever your manufacturer does, 5 stars on that survey, right? But don't be afraid to tell the customer, for example, just stories of the past and how you're doing a different job. That's okay to do. Because, and you hear it all the time, like you walk into like Best Buy, it's like their like their tagline in there, like, we do not work on commission. And then they go, hey, can I help you? We don't work on commission. And then you turn around and go, nah, I'm good. 5 seconds later, you're like, where the heck did that person go? And somehow they always disappear. I don't know, Best Buy's like that. It must be the place of a million doors. But with these items and these stories to help increase that kindness understanding, and you're almost telling the customer in this particular example that, hey, I'm being kind to you, I'm being different, please don't kill me on the survey. So don't be afraid to leverage something else along with this, and that's the fact of letting the customer know that you are doing something entirely different, right? You've taken a look at the sales process, you've invested the time in it, and you're willing to start to not only learn about them, but have them learn a little bit about you. Now, this is one of those things where the customer, when they come in through the front door, they don't care about us, right? And that's okay. I mean, personally, I don't mind. I'd love for the customer just to speak about themselves the whole time, and for me to, well, not have to say a darn thing, right? It would just make our lives really, really easy, and rapport much easier to build. But I've seen firsthand how kindness can transform the sales process. So let me read you a little story here that I jotted on down just to make sure that I remembered it and got all the details in here. So a friend of mine, his name is Mike, he's been in the car sales for many, many, many years, right? He told me about a time when a couple came on in looking for an SUV, and they were incredibly skeptical and concerned about their financing. The reason is they just didn't trust anybody, and they did their research online, and they came in tinfoil hat on and all, right? And they had the usual worries, right? So reliability, how's that going to be? What can I get in through finance on that? And when it comes down to things like plugging the vehicle in, what do we do with that there as well? So for Mike, instead of going straight for numbers, Mike spent a lot of time walking them through things like the vehicle service history, any pre-owned reports like a Carfax or something along those lines he was pulling out. And he explained the CPO warranties, the certified pre-owned warranties, and his dealership in simple terms. Right? Didn't go through all of here's what the 3,000 point inspection is. Most people, when they hear, well, it has 124 point inspection, they don't have no idea what that means. They don't know. So take some time and sit them down and go, hey, listen, I know a lot of this can be incredibly confusing. And explain it to them. But back to Mike. So then the customer mentioned, Mike, that they were worried about things like, hey, what about a child safety seat? What about space for that, right? Well, Mike actually decided that he was willing to go the extra mile with this. So he looked at them. He didn't help them install a child safety seat inside, but he allowed them the ability to kind of get a little lesson from Mike. Now, I am not for people touching a child safety seat. Reason is there's a lot of liability with that. But you can go ahead and walk over to the vehicle and go, okay, now in newer vehicles, because I see that you drove on in your old Buick Skylark there, and now, yeah, that one did use the seatbelt to hold it in place. But in modern day vehicles, we use what we call lower anchors and tethers for children latch. The latch system allows for you to anchor it down on the floor, and then also the seat back as well. Or I'm sorry, in the crook of the seat and then the seat back as well. So Mike spent some time with them going over this stuff, and it was a huge, massive worry for them that they wouldn't be able to do things like get the child safety seating correctly. They wouldn't be able to get the financing that they really really desired, and these usual worries for this individual almost cratered his deal just because the anxiety when they first walked in was momentous, right? It was just insane. So he ended up sealing the deal, but not only did the people buy the SUV, right? A year later, they came on back with the whole family, which is why I remember the story so well, is that the whole family came on in. And it was like buy a car day. And Mike sat there, and the family of five came in, and four of them ended up buying cars. It was awesome. And it was simply because I'd say he twisted his sales process a little bit to understand that it needed to accommodate a kindness quotient. It needed to accommodate the ability for somebody to take some time and go, hey, listen, I can pay attention to you. I can go ahead and work through this, right? I can go ahead and understand that it's not easy to buy a car. And since it's not easy to buy a car, how about I go ahead and give you the ability to understand every step along the way? Now, this sounds like a big process. And I know some of you out there right now are going, well, that takes a long time. And, I'd rather just simply go ahead and sell the car. Cool. But simply selling the car doesn't help with future and repeat business, right? You're in this for a career, aren't you? Think about it. Say it out loud right now. Are you in this for a career? Yes or no? Well, if you're in this for a career, like you just stated, then we got to go the extra distance. We got to understand that, 4 or 5, 20 years down the road, we need individuals that know who we are to come back into the door. Right. The tactics of, getting the customer, to sit on down and, clobbering them over the head with, here's a great price. No, I can't knock $50 off. How about I just go ahead and practice the tactic of taking the vehicle away from you and making you feel miserable right now? Oh, now you said yes. Oh, good. I sold the vehicle, got the mark on the board. Oh, hey, look, $200 in my paycheck. What do you do? Whereas on the other end of that, you take the time, commission goes up. You take the time, all of a sudden that individual goes, no, you need to buy from this person. You need to go to Mike. And next thing you know, people go on in to you to see you because they already trust you. Rapport's already built. The closing ratio naturally is incredibly high on an individual that already has some sort of preconceived idea of who exactly you are and how well you treated their friend or family member. I don't know. Kindness just doesn't close deals. It builds long-lasting relationships that will fund your future. And on the opposite end of that, if you're a jerk to your customers, and I know I'm not going to ask you to say, hey, are you a jerk? Yes or no. But if you're a complete jerk to your customers, you're going to notice your return, repeat, and referral business is non-existent. It's not there. Nobody wants to work with somebody they don't like. You've heard the stories from your customers when they come in. Don't put yourself in a position where now you have to go ahead and work with an individual that is never going to come back to you. Remember, every customer that comes in has the potential of being long-term income for you. It's just a matter of how you treat them. If you treat them terribly, they're not going to return. If you treat them great, like gold, they will be back. So other areas during the process that will help an awful lot if we slow down, we bake kindness on into there, is when it comes to automotive technologies and how we see them on the vehicle, right? These aren't just things to sell. They're tools that it can do things like enhance customer care and even go as far as uplifting personalization to the point where the customer goes, wait, I can make the lights pink inside. Oh, heck yeah, you can. And I can go ahead and set the screen to all the cool colors that I want. Oh yeah, you can. Can you do that with the others that you're looking at? No, but I can do it with this one. Yeah, you can. So Mike absolutely crushed it when it came to that deal. He had one heck of a day, and it was all based on the fact that he slowed down with the first customer, right? That's how we get the repeat referrals. But with automotive technology in the process, you got to slow down a little even further, right? Automotive technology isn't an item to simply show on the vehicle. It's also one of those items right now that's making customers either say yes to buying the vehicle or no to buying the vehicle. And what I mean by this is that when things, again, get scary, people avoid them like the plagues. And can you blame them? I'm sure there's things in your life where you look at the world and you're like, oh my gosh, no, where really, it's not really out there to bite you. You just don't know how to use it. So Couple tips on this one, right? A few ways that tech can help integrate kindness into the process. So first one, digital showrooms and also walkthrough videos, right? If your customer's interested in the car, but can't make it there right away, bait the hook, okay? Send them something like a quick walk around video in the car, right? This keeps the excitement up. Same way that like if you really want to go out and like see a particular movie, right? They run ads and you tend to pay attention to those when they come on through. So send them a quick walk around video, and maybe explain a couple features that they actually do care about. So if they emailed on in and they said, hey, here's what I'm looking for in the car, show it to them. Because the other consultants are not doing that. Other salespeople are not doing that. They're not going that distance. Basically, they're writing the customer back and saying, hey, if you want the best price, you gotta come on in. Well, that's a great way to lose a deal. But instead of going ahead and responding in that way, give them a price, right? I mean, the internet's a great thing. If you're not going to give them a price, somebody else will. But also send them something of value, right? Because it shows that you're thinking about them. It shows that you're also not just thinking about the sale. The sale is critically important, but the human on the other end of that is the one that will go ahead and dictate whether they're going to buy or not, right? You have to put them in a position where they can say yes to buying a car, right? Give themselves permission to buy. So the next one's a little bit interesting. This one's pretty cool if you can figure out how to do it. I have bumped into a couple of them that sales consultants have, and they can be pretty darn awesome as long as you tune them properly, right? So you need to be really next level techie with a few of these things, but they're easy to use once you figure them out. So AI chatbots, right? Artificial intelligence chatbots that you can apply to things like your web pages. I had a consultant the other day put one on his phone, and he asked me for all these resources in a class I was teaching. I sent them out all over to him. And then I'm like, why are you talking to me? You're supposed to be in class paying attention. And it was this AI chatbot making sure that his customers were going to be okay. And I didn't know at all it was a chatbot until I saw that I was talking to him in my chat, and then I was also talking to his chatbot on his text messenger. So with these, they can keep customers engaged, especially if you've told something like the chatbot, ChatGTP, a Gemini, something along those lines, that hey, I want you to sound like me. And a lot of times they will. And you can program in answers to some of them. But again, they keep customers engaged and they let them know that, hey, here's what's going on. And they can answer basic questions like, how do you keep office hours? What's your contact info, preferred methods, and, simple answers on cars, things of that nature. But with those chatbots, just be aware that there's still a slightly impersonal touch to it. So do follow up with those, occasionally when you'll take a look at them when you know that the messages are coming in. And if the chatbot's not doing something right, get back to tuning that thing. Now, little side note here. I do have an interview with a gentleman who is heavily invested in AI coming up. It's going to be a bonus episode next week or the week after that. And he talks about these things. And it is really, really cool, the depth that you can go to with something like a chatbot. Now, in-car demonstrations are also going to help out. Okay, so a little change of gear here, but the third little tip on integrating technology. In-car demonstrations are huge, right? So instead of just pointing out buttons when you got the customer there, it's time to walk them through some features, but have them push the buttons, have them pull the levers. The reason is that as you get older, you can learn from reading, and obviously, that's why we have books and children's manuals and stuff like that. But when it comes to adapting the information for long-term success, we have to find a way to bank it away, and that is where doing comes in. So get the customer engaged by getting them to actually pull those buttons, pull the levers, whatever it might be, program their Bluetooth to the car, program their infotainment system. I tell a lot of people that when it comes to delivery, I challenge you, don't touch the car. Yeah, be cordial, open the door, open the hood, but have the customer go through the motions of what a day is going to be like with them. Hey, if your Bluetooth falls out, how are you going to connect it, right? If Android Auto, Apple CarPlay fails, how are you going to connect it, right? If all of a sudden you can't find where you are and you're completely lost, how do you use that nav system to get you back to the destination that you're looking for? So with these walkthroughs, it provides a great deal of confidence to that individual that, doesn't have their resident 12 or 11-year-old around to explain them, every single little bit of tech. So take that time. Acknowledge the fact that, hey, I might have somebody here that's tech deficient, and just walk them through some basic things. Or if they're not even tech deficient, if there's somebody that understands technology, but that this stuff is super cool, Take that time, walk them through all those items. All right. Now, automated follow-up type things can also help. So we got the AI chatbot that I mentioned as my number 2 on here. The other one, like I said, is going to be automated follow-up. Now, automated follow-up can add those personal touches, and it can be integrated into things like your AI chatbot. But also CRMs will pull this off. Now, most CRMs will just automatically send these out, like, "Hey, thank you for coming on in." If you have the capability, if your manager is going to allow you to, or if you're a manager there, sit down with your sales consultants, maybe at a Saturday morning meeting, and go, "Hey, everybody, look at your computers." So everybody's looking at their computer. I want you to go ahead and I want you to pull up the personalized video, the personalized messaging service, the personalized email that our CRM sends out. Now, I want you to go ahead and type your own. So they go ahead, they type their own, and then do yourself a favor, proofread it. Maybe you have Apple Intelligence look at it if they're on Macs. But with that, just make sure that it sounds relevant, is the easiest way to say it. So something to the effect of, "Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Customer, just want to check in and see if, you have any questions. We talked about XYZ. Maybe leave those XYZ gaps open so you can easily fill something in. And then when the automation fires, it fires with relevant data." Or if you use a CRM that has a form capability, like what was the customer interested in, have the form or create your form, your email, and leave those form spots in there so it automatically feeds on in, but it's customized to the individual that is sending that email. All right. So I recommend setting up at least 3 or 4 of those for one individual after they purchase at set dates, right? And make sure that you go in every so often, just take a look at what your CRM's doing. So your CRM doesn't email somebody that clearly does not want to ever hear from you again. And it happens, right? We can't be friends with everybody that's out there. So there's one thing I want you to take away from this episode. It's the fact that genuine kindness is actually a massive competitive edge that so few consultants or salespeople rather out there are unwilling to spend the time to hone. Once it's honed, it can be wielded as a proverbial weapon, so to speak, to allow you to help people get what they desire. At the same time, you get what you desire out of it as well. Now, customers, they remember how they were treated, right? Far more than they're going to remember the price of the financing terms on the vehicle, right? So they'll walk away from this transaction either feeling like they were just, another sale, which kind of sucks, or they will walk away from this transaction feeling like they were truly helped. And if they feel like they were helped, they buy, and they encourage other people to come back on in and buy from you. Now, next time when you're working with your customers, seriously sit down and ask yourself, how can I make this experience better for this individual that's sitting in front of me? Right? It's one very quick question that you could fire off, even go ahead and maybe put it somewhere where the customer can't see when you're talking to them, right? How can I make this experience better for them than they may have received anywhere else, or better than the last individual that I just worked with, right? So that's it for today's episode on AutoKnerd. Thank you very, very much. If you found this valuable, please share it with a colleague. And don't forget, follow us, right? We're on LinkedIn. We are on the Facebook. When it comes down to it, just type on in there, AutoKnerd, AutoKnerd. So until next time, be kind, be genuine, and watch those sales simply explode when you add kindness to the equation. I'll talk to you next week.